Thank you. I'm sorry I couldn't get around to it sooner, but
That's fine.
I work well under pressure.
Well, you certainly worked well then. Good evening, everyone. This is the Zoning Board of Appeals for November 12th, 2014. The first item we have is to adopt our minutes, but we don't have the right people here to adopt the minutes. So the second item on our agenda is a hearing on an application filed by David and Lenore Person for 8 variances to replace an existing retaining wall, construct new relocated retaining walls, and a 2-story shed structure at the property located at 26 Palisade Street. Brian, do we have any green cards?
I haven't received any back. The notices that went out and the cards are coming back, they were to be returned to us so that we could say how many were sent compared to how many.
I could go get them. They're all just sitting in my kitchen.
Did they mostly come back, or?
Yeah, all
All of them came
We
back?
got one letter back from the Metro North Railroad that was, not deliverable. So we got the whole thing back, but
Everything else came back?
We got all the other ones.
I think if you deliver it to the building department in the morning, that will be fine. That'll complete our records, and that should be fine.
I have a USB, or I have the old-fashioned way.
I-
Sort of informal, I don't know.
Oh, I asked if there was gonna be a PowerPoint and wasn't given one. We would have had to have had that yesterday.
Doesn't matter, I mean, usually I've
You
brought it
you
here.
could
and
you could
plug
just
it
do
in.
the regular. I think that'll show up well enough on TV, and,
Okay.
that should
I mean,
that should be
I've
fine
done it
now.
here before, so I don't.
Do you need the use of an easel?
No, I have the easel here.
Oh, you have an easel?
Oh, you do have an easel? Oh, I
Yeah.
thought, I just said I thought there'd be an easel. But, you can't plug this in now? Or you don't have it set up? 'Cause I usually.
I think it's just not that it's not set up
Someone,
yet.
Marcus or something just plugs it in. That's fine, doesn't matter. Thought it would be the newfangled way, but I brought this as a backup, luckily. Let me just prepare this a second. Just put that in.
It really is an amazing number, considering what they're doing.
Yes. Yes. No, I was
Yeah.
struck by how
And I guess
variances and
if you could,
not doing all that much.
It's an amazing project.
look at these amongst here. Sal, these are all the sort of context photos.
Right.
Just. Redundant.
Yeah. I think we all know the
Is
site
that-
pretty
you all
well.
know the site pretty well.
Right.
Okay. So anyway,
Yeah, could you just give us your
Yeah.
name and address and all that stuff for the record?
is this on? Yeah, I'm Niall Kane, I'm the architect for the project representing Lenore and Dave Pearson. The property's 26 Palisade Street, and currently there's an existing off-street parking area which is in very bad condition. There's a
Yes.
retaining wall just coming down. If you look at the photographs there, you can see that it's being braced by some wood frame at the moment. So we're proposing to fix that situation.
Can you please speak into the microphone? She
Oh,
cannot hear
okay,
you in the
okay.
back.
All right, I assumed it was coming through. So we're proposing to enlarge that off-street parking area, and it involves some retaining wall work along the adjacent property line, and then we're proposing to terrace it back, which is sort of a nicer, pulling it back away from the street. And you can see it here. This is the existing house. We actually did some renovation work years ago on this house. So you can see the entire section of the property, which is kind of important because you can see it's quite steep. And the house is perched up quite high above the street. And in conjunction with the parking here, what we're proposing here is a little two-story storage shed. And it's clearly, you know, outside of the front, it's within the front yard setback. And it'll be accessed from the top terrace here as well as the bottom. And it's, you know, Lenore and Dave sort of came to me with this idea of putting a little two-story shed here. And I really love the idea because it kind of looks a little bit like we're trying to make it look a little bit like a lighthouse. Now, it's not gonna be a lighthouse at all, it's not gonna be a light component to it. But it has a relationship to the river, and you can see in some of those photographs I've attempted to show that view of the river and even some tower-like structures on the bridge that crosses the train tracks. The other thing about this area is that there are a number of structures, including the old, it's not the Embassy Club, what is it, the brick, senior, it used to be this, it's the community center, right? Community center and other structures that are right up against the road. So this will not be an anomaly, in other words, sitting up right next to the road. What else? Let me see, there's another picture. And you can see this is the front elevation, and you can see the top of it doesn't even meet the bottom of the house, so it's not gonna be visible from any other, you know, it's not gonna obstruct any views from any neighbors, because it's really tucked down below the grade. In fact, your house up here, you won't see it from your property at all. And this is the front elevation, so again, we'll just try to taper it and make it look kind of fun. And, you know, I really like things like that. I like little anomalies in the village. I think it's important to have things that like that in the village and not have things that are, you know, within the zoning board. So my position is that this is a positive thing for the village, for that turn, as you come around, particularly as you come around that turn, relationship to the river, and it's not big. You know, this is a person. You can see the scale. Well, I don't know if you can see it, but the person there, it's about 10 feet wide at the bottom, 6 or 7 feet at the top, 10'6" wide at the bottom, square. And even though, you know, you would still require variances for the off-street parking, because we just can't push it back, practically speaking, as we could, but
Right.
that far from the road, we are.
Well, it would accentuate the height of the whole.
Yeah, actually, the farther you get back, the steeper
Right,
this
the
mass
steeper it's gonna
seems
be.
to appear, it's not really steeper. And we're improving it, if you can see the dotted line here is where, there's some light, the existing collapsing retaining wall is, and we're pushing it back another 8 feet or so at the deepest part, and another few feet here at the
Right.
shallowest part. We're kind of tidying it up and making it more sensible. It's still, well, it's 16, my eyes are so bad, 18 feet wide, so it's like 2 9-foot wide spaces. What else? I think that's it. There's an existing stair that sort of comes along beside it, that's all existing, there's no work there. That's it.
Can you just estimate how much of the shed structure will be visible from Palisade Street?
Well, I guess,
Most of it.
well, I mean, when you're in front, it will be visible. When you're right directly in front of the property, of course, this is, sorry. And this direct front elevation, of course, you see unobstructed from with the exception of a parked car, you see unobstructed from the street. But the minute you bend away from it, there's a tall retaining wall here, this slopes up dramatically. So you're not gonna get many views coming down that street of it until you get, you know, directly adjacent to it. And the same thing's really true from
You're
the
probably
other
one,
direction as
Probably
well. It's
one
really
house
tucked
away when you're coming down from Main Street, maybe from the American Legion. You know, might be 2 houses away, 3 houses away, it would be visible.
But what I love about it is that you can, it's small, but hypothetically, you can see it from the river, and it has this little lighthouse look. I think that's what's nice about it. and from the train, and, you know, people coming to the train, walking down to the train tracks and so forth.
Could you just explain a little bit the nature of the 61-foot variance for the shed?
Is that the front?
Oh,
I have to say
yes.
front. Yeah.
Yeah, as an absolute number, it is one of the largest
Well-
variances we've ever granted.
Oh,
So
I know
don't
what it is. It's
understand
because
the nature of it.
it's really because this, you know, the way the code's written, it should be
Behind. the house.
behind. So that's
Right.
why it's such a huge variance, because it's actually being measured from the back, not from the front. Is that right? I mean, am I describing that the way you would? I mean, that's essentially.
It was measured from the front line of the house
Right.
to its
Right.
proposed location.
Right. You were
It's
saying the
supposed to
same.
be behind the front line of the house.
Brian said it a
So
little
it's
more precisely than
juxtaposition.
I did, but
It-
yeah.
In zoning theory, the house precedes the shed, and
Right.
in this case, we're flopping them.
Right,
Right.
because typically,
It's-
we have no rear yard
Right.
here, the way this house was built. It's right up against the rear yard, so yes, the way the zoning's written is any structure like that would be in back.
It's like opposite Masters, probably 10 years ago. Someone asked for a variance because they had the garage in front of the
Yeah, right,
house.
yeah.
And so it numerically was a large number.
And that's the other thing about Dobbs Ferry, is that there are garages in front of the houses all over Dobbs Ferry because
Right.
of this wonderful steep slope area we live in. And again, that's what's nice, is that difference, that variation. So I think it's a positive thing, really. I mean, visually for the neighborhood, it's not just about the functional aspect of it for Dave and Lenore.
Would anyone else like to be heard on this application?
Yeah.
Please, if you'd come up and tell us your name and address.
Sure. My name is Steve Amborski. I've lived at 13 Main Street for 68 years, never moved. My property's just north of Dave's property, so mine's the parking lot next to him and the property next to him. I have to say that when I first saw the plans, I was taken back a little bit by the ambitiousness of something on Palisade Street of that size and magnitude of the shed. However, after a lengthy conversation with Dave today, my first thoughts were initially, I think when I was talking to Brian, was a lighthouse and then a windmill. And then when I talked to Dave today, he actually said, yeah, that's kind of what we were looking for. So my feeling is it's not going to be on my property. It doesn't have any effect on my view, I don't believe, and then I don't think it'll reduce the value of my property at all. So if the board deems the variations appropriate, you know, I'm not opposed to it, I'm in favor of it.
Okay, thank you very much. We can close the hearing, Unless you've got-
Nothing more to say.
unless you've got something more to say.
No, no.
Or if you wanted to say something about
Yeah.
your development.
I think Niall did a great job.
You'd have to come to the microphone, please.
Oh,
We want to get that compliment on tape.
for the record.
Make sure he's already sent the bill before you
And
say
broadcast
it.
repeatedly.
Thanks to all of you. Thanks to Steve, thanks to Niall, who did a great job. I think we just, we have a two-family house there that used to be a one-family. We have what I consider to be a beautiful location and a beautiful apartment down below, which has probably enough storage for clothing and not a lot else. So our tenants there have their bicycles as furniture, essentially. And our tenants upstairs also are bulging out where they take over a small portion of our deck for storage. So it would just be, it would be a win-win. We could even divide up the shed between the upstairs tenants and the downstairs tenants for fun or for practicality as well. A previous tenant of ours is an architect, but moved to Vermont. He came up with the idea of using the stairway landings, which I think Niall provided pictures of. And the stairway landings break up the slope in a sensible way, and provide access. One of them provides access to the top of the shed, and one of them would be well, that one you just bypass actually, but the second one would provide access, just a nice little walkway to the upper part of the shed. We don't expect to have any kind of a stairwell or anything inside it, it's just a, you know, an upper box and a
And
lower
lower
box.
Sure.
Smaller one at the top.
Interesting.
And, that's really all I would have to say, I think.
Okay.
Unless you have any other questions.
No, it's an interesting concept.
Thank you.
Second?
You can choose whoever second that you like. And I move that the application be granted.
I second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Good luck to you. It's a fabulous project.
Move to close the meeting?
My wife was more.
It's interesting concept.
Well, you know, they can't,
Yeah.
they're providing as much parking as they possibly can, and they're taking your eye off the parking structure.
Especially creates an interesting scale to the
Yeah.
side. That solves the
And
common
it-
problem we all have.
And it works with the river, I mean, it's.
We can do some of that in all the Worcester. There's some storage sheds in that also.